Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. Put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Master your mindset, overcome negativity and transform your life. Written and published by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Introduction: The Power of Your Mindset. Have you ever wondered why some people crush life's challenges like they're swatting a fly, while others collapse into a sad, defeated puddle of why me? Here's the crazy part. It's not their circumstances, it's not their IQ, and it's definitely not how many motivational quotes they've reposted on Instagram. It's their mindset. Yep, the way they look at the world, the way they interpret life's chaos, and how they react when everything goes sideways. And guess what? You're standing at a big, flashing crossroads right now. One road leads to more of the same, more doubting yourself, more feeling stuck, more letting life happen to you while you just sit there, hoping it'll magically fix itself. The other road, it's wild. It's everything you've ever dreamed of. And between these two roads, one mindset shift. Just one shift. One shift to stop making excuses. One shift to stop overthinking everything and just start doing. One shift to unlock the epic, unstoppable, world-changing version of you that's been sitting in there all along, waiting for you to notice. Science time. Did you know that your mindset doesn't just mess with your thoughts, it actually messes with your body? Like for real. Researchers at Stanford figured out that your mindset changes things like your hormone levels, your immune system, and probably your ability to crush a Monday. And here's the deal. When you finish this audiobook, you're not just going to think positive or slap a sticky note on your mirror that says, "You got this." Nah, you'll have a blueprint for completely reconstructing your mindset. We're talking kicking negative thoughts out like a bad roommate. Building mental frameworks so strong they could survive an apocalypse. Becoming so resilient, even Monday mornings are scared of you. But wait, it gets real. This isn't about sitting in a circle chanting good vibes only. Nope. This is about strategic mindset reconstruction. Big words, big results. So here's the million-dollar question. Are you ready to make that one shift? The shift that could literally change everything? If yes, and I hope it's yes, then buckle up, because this is about to get life-changing. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Mindset Illusion. Why most people never change their thinking. Have you ever told yourself, "I'm going to think more positively from now on," only to catch yourself spiraling back into the same old negative thought patterns like 2 days later? Yeah, same. And guess what? You're not alone. Studies say 85% of attempts to change your thinking flop. That's 85%. Like, oops, try again later levels of failure. But here's the twist. It's not because people don't want to change. It's because they're stuck in something I call the mindset illusion, TM, patent pending. The mindset illusion is this sneaky little lie your brain tells you. Just deciding to think differently will magically fix everything. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Take Sarah, for example. Sarah was a high-powered executive, smart, motivated, probably drank almond lattes. For 7 straight years, she tried everything to fix her negative thoughts. Self-help books, motivational seminars, meditation apps, probably even yoga on a paddleboard. And yet, imposter syndrome, still there. Catastrophizing? Yep. Perfectionism? Oh, you bet. Why? Because like millions of other people, Sarah fell for the big lie. She thought intention. Transformation. But spoiler, it doesn't. Here's the shocking truth. Your brain doesn't care about your intentions. Your brain is lazy. It's like, look, I'm just trying to save energy and keep you alive, okay? So instead of letting you evolve, it defaults to whatever's easiest, even if that's a dumpster fire of negative thought patterns. And when you try to change, your brain freaks out. It's like, this positive thinking thing is a scam. I've always been this way. I can't change. Everyone else can fix their mindset, but my problems are special. Tried it before, didn't work, pass the popcorn. Sound familiar? That's called homeostatic pushback, a fancy neuroscience term for your brain is a drama queen that hates change. And guess what happens next? Most people don't change their thinking to match their goals. They change their goals to match their thinking. Oh, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. This is just who I am. Positive people are faking it anyway. And just like that, another dream gets added to the graveyard of unrealized potential. But not for you. Not this time. Here's the thing. Mindset transformation isn't about motivation. It's not about saying positive vibes only, while ignoring that your brain is quietly sabotaging you. Nope. It's about neurology. See, your brain is like an old computer running outdated software. Motivation is like slapping a sticky note on the monitor saying, "Run faster." But what you actually need, a system upgrade. Let's break it down. Most people try what I call surface thinking TM. I'll stop thinking negative thoughts about my big presentation. I'll just be more positive tomorrow. Cool story, but that's like putting a fresh coat of paint over a termite-infested house. Looks fine on the outside, but the whole structure's still crumbling underneath. What you need is structural thinking, ATM. Why do I equate my self-worth with how I perform in public? Where did this belief come from, and how can I rebuild it? How can I reframe this presentation as an opportunity to serve rather than a chance to be judged? Do you see the difference? Surface thinking is like a band-aid on a broken bone. Structural thinking rewires the whole system so the broken bone can actually heal. When Sarah made this shift, everything changed. Instead of slapping positivity on top of her imposter syndrome, she dug deep. She found the root belief, I need to be perfect to be worthy, and traced it back to her childhood. Then she rewrote it. She reframed imperfection as growth, not failure. 4 months later, her imposter syndrome, poof, gone. So here's the big lesson. How you approach mindset change determines if it works or not. In the next chapter, I'm going to teach you my mindset mastery method, TM. This isn't about thinking happy thoughts or pretending life's perfect. It's about being strategic, rewiring the frameworks that shape your automatic thoughts, and reclaiming control over your mental focus. Because mindset mastery isn't about being positive all the time. It's about becoming the kind of person who chooses their focus, rather than letting their brain's outdated software run the show. So let me ask you, are you ready to stop wishing for a better mindset and start building one? Let's do this. Chapter 2, the Mindset Mastery Method, creating a brain that works for you. Imagine for a moment that I asked you to drive across the country using a map from 1950. The basic geography would be the same, but the roads, the cities, the landmarks, many would have changed dramatically. Following that outdated map would lead to constant frustration, wrong turns, and dead ends. Yet this is exactly how most people navigate life, with outdated mental maps that no longer serve them. They operate from mindsets formed when they were 7 or 15 or 22, trying to navigate an entirely different landscape with maps that were created for another world entirely. This is why mindset mastery is so crucial. Without updating your mental maps, you'll never navigate effectively to where you want to go, no matter how hard you try. But here's the problem. Most people confuse temporary mental states with true mindset transformation. A temporary state is, I feel motivated after watching that inspiring video. A transformed mindset is a fundamental shift in how you process information and interpret events, so profound and embedded that it operates automatically, even under stress. Let me share a personal story that illustrates this difference. When I was 32 years old, I was struggling with crushing anxiety. I'd achieved external success, good career, nice home, great relationships. But inside, my mind was a battlefield of worst-case scenarios and self-doubt. I tried everything to feel better. Meditation apps, breathing techniques, positive affirmations. They would work for a few hours, maybe a day if I was lucky, but then something would trigger me and I'd be right back in the grip of anxiety. Then one evening, something changed. I was sitting in my car, heart racing from another panic attack, when I had a realization. I wasn't going to overcome anxiety. I was going to transform my relationship with it. I wasn't going to try to eliminate uncomfortable thoughts. I was going to build a new framework for processing them. That night, I began developing what would eventually become the Mindset Mastery Method. M stands for metacognition. This is the practice of observing your thoughts without identifying with them. It's the difference between I am anxious and I notice anxiety is present. This slight shift creates a space between you and your thoughts, allowing you to respond rather than react. A stands for awareness expansion. Most negative mindsets come from tunnel vision, seeing only problems, threats, and limitations. By deliberately expanding your awareness to include possibilities, resources, and past successes, you break the spell of negativity. S stands for story reconstruction. Every mind creates stories to make sense of events. Most of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from the disempowering stories we tell about them. By consciously reconstructing these narratives, you transform your experience without changing a single external circumstance. T stands for transformational testing. Most limiting beliefs persist because we never test them against reality. By designing small, safe experiments to test your fears and assumptions, you gather evidence that systematically dismantles negative mindsets. E stands for environmental design. Your physical and social environments powerfully influence your mental patterns. By deliberately structuring your surroundings to support your desired mindset, you make transformation exponentially easier. R stands for routine integration. New neural pathways require consistent activation. By integrating mindset practices into your daily routines, you ensure that transformation becomes permanent rather than temporary. Now let me show you how this works in practice. Here's how I applied the master framework to my own anxiety. For metacognition, I developed a simple practice of mentally stepping back when anxiety arose, observing. There's the feeling of anxiety rather than being consumed by it. This created space for choice rather than automatic reaction. For awareness expansion, I began a daily practice of documenting evidence that contradicted my anxious beliefs. Every time I successfully handled a situation I'd been anxious about, I recorded it as evidence of my capability. For story reconstruction, I rewrote my interpretation of physical anxiety symptoms. Instead of seeing a racing heart as evidence of danger, I reframed it as evidence of my body preparing for optimal performance, excitement rather than fear. For transformational testing, I gradually exposed myself to situations that triggered anxiety, starting with small challenges and working up to bigger ones. Each successful experience became evidence against my limiting beliefs. For environmental design, I identified people and situations that amplified my anxiety and restructured my life to minimize their impact. I also surrounded myself with individuals who modeled the mindset I wanted to develop. For routine integration, I created daily practices that reinforced my new mindset, a morning visualization, midday check-ins, and an evening reflection, until my new thought patterns became automatic. The result? Within 6 months, my relationship with anxiety had fundamentally transformed. The same situations that once triggered panic now triggered focus. The physical sensations once interpreted as danger were now interpreted as energy. The thoughts once seen as threats were now seen as interesting data points, but not reality. Was my transformation just a personal quirk? Absolutely not. The master framework is grounded in cutting-edge neuroscience, particularly in what scientists call self-directed neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize itself based on where you direct your attention. Let me tell you about Dr. Fabrizio Benedetti's fascinating research at the University of Turin Medical School. Dr. Benedetti studied patients undergoing thoracic surgery, an extremely painful procedure requiring strong morphine doses for pain management. Here's the fascinating part. When patients were given morphine by a doctor who told them it would reduce their pain, they experienced significant relief. But when the exact same dose was administered by a programmed pump without their awareness, the painkilling effect was dramatically reduced. Same drug, same dose. Dramatically different results, all because of mindset. This isn't limited to pain medication. Research shows that mindset affects the body's response to food, exercise, stress, and even aging itself. In a groundbreaking study at Harvard, hotel housekeepers were told that their work constituted excellent exercise that met all daily physical activity requirements. Just 4 weeks later, these housekeepers, who hadn't changed their actual work at all, showed decreases in weight, blood pressure, and body fat compared to a control group who wasn't given this mindset intervention. Think about the implications. Their bodies changed simply because their mindsets changed. Creating your mindset is the first step. But for it to truly transform your life, you must make it part of your daily reality. I recommend these 3 practices. First, morning mindset priming. Spend 5 minutes each morning activating your desired mindset before the day's demands take over. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about deliberately setting your mental filters to notice opportunities rather than just threats, possibilities rather than just problems. Second, environmental triggers. Create visual reminders of your desired mindset in your physical environment, notes on your mirror, desktop wallpapers, phone backgrounds. These constant cues keep your new mental frameworks at the forefront of your awareness. Third, micro-moment practices. Identify 3 to 5 recurring situations in your day, red lights, coffee breaks, phone notifications, and use them as triggers for 10-second mindset resets. These tiny practices, repeated consistently, rewire your neural pathways more effectively than occasional longer sessions. Let's talk about a common objection I hear. But what if negative thinking is realistic? What if I'm just seeing things as they are? This question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about how perception works. Your brain receives approximately 11 million bits of information per second, but can consciously process only about 50 bits. The rest is filtered out based on what your brain deems important. Your mindset doesn't determine reality, it determines which parts of reality you notice. A negative mindset doesn't see the truth. It selectively attends to problems, threats, and limitations while filtering out opportunities, resources, and possibilities that are equally real. A mastered mindset doesn't deny challenges. It expands awareness to include all relevant information, especially the parts that empower you to take effective action. Another question people often ask is, what if my negative mindset feels completely automatic and overwhelming? My answer: that's not a sign that transformation is impossible. It's precisely why transformation is necessary. The more automatic and compelling a mindset feels, the more it's controlling your life without your conscious choice. The good news is that what's learned can be unlearned. What's wired can be rewired. The same neuroplasticity that created your current mindset can create a new one. Remember, the purpose of mindset mastery isn't to predict the future with perfect accuracy or to eliminate all negative thoughts. It's to give your brain a framework that serves you rather than sabotages you, that empowers rather than limits. Without this mastery, you're like a sophisticated computer running outdated software, capable of extraordinary things but limited by programming that no longer serves its purpose. So before we move to the next chapter, I want you to commit to applying the master framework to one area of your mindset that's been limiting you. Set aside at least 1 hour of uninterrupted time this week. Find a quiet space, eliminate distractions, and work through each component of the framework. Ask yourself, if I were completely free from my current mental limitations, what would become possible in my life? The answer to that question is the first step toward mastering your mindset and transforming your life. In the next chapter, we'll explore the reality reconstruction system, how to transform how you interpret life events to create empowering meanings even from challenging circumstances. But remember, everything begins with a decision to master your mindset. As the ancient proverb says, as a person thinks in their heart, so they are. Your mindset creates your reality. Choose wisely. Chapter 3. The Reality Reconstruction System. Transform how you interpret everything. Have you ever noticed how two people can experience the exact same event, yet walk away with completely different perceptions? One person gets laid off and sees it as the worst thing that could happen, a devastating blow to their identity and financial security. Another person gets laid off and sees it as the best thing that could happen, a perfect opportunity to pursue their passion and reinvent their career. Same event, radically different interpretations, dramatically different emotional responses, and ultimately, entirely different outcomes. And ultimately, entirely different outcomes. What separates these two people? Not the external circumstance, but how they construct meaning from that circumstance. This is what I call reality reconstruction, the understanding that it's not what happens to you that determines your experience of life, but the meaning you assign to what happens. Let me be clear, I'm not talking about denial or delusion. I'm talking about recognizing that any event can be interpreted through multiple lenses, and some interpretations create suffering, while others create possibility. This isn't just philosophical theory, it's practical neuroscience. When something happens in your life, your brain doesn't simply register the objective facts. Instead, it instantly runs those facts through your existing mental frameworks and assigns meaning based on your past experiences, beliefs, and current emotional state. This meaning-making process happens so quickly and automatically that most people never realize they have a choice in how they interpret events. They confuse their interpretations with reality itself. I'll never forget working with Michael, a talented entrepreneur whose business had just experienced a significant setback. A key client had unexpectedly cancelled their contract, creating a substantial revenue gap. When Michael came to me, he was devastated. He had constructed a meaning around this event that was crushing him. This proves my business model is flawed. I'll never replace this client in time to meet payroll. I've let everyone down, including my family. This is the beginning of the end for my company. These interpretations weren't facts. They were stories his mind had created to make sense of what happened. But Michael was treating them as absolute truth, and they were paralyzing him with anxiety and despair. What Michael needed wasn't just positive thinking, it was a complete reconstruction of how he interpreted this event. And that's precisely what we created through what I call the frame system. F stands for find the facts. Separate what actually happened, observable, verifiable data, from your interpretations about what happened. R stands for recognize alternate interpretations. Generate multiple different ways of viewing the same situation, especially those that create possibility rather than limitation. A stands for assess the evidence. Honestly, evaluate which interpretation is best supported by the complete evidence, not just selectively chosen facts. M stands for meaning choice. Consciously choose the interpretation that both respects reality and empowers you to respond effectively. E stands for embody the new meaning. Integrate your chosen interpretation through visualization, physical stance, and strategic action. Here's how Michael applied the frame system to his situation. For find the facts, Michael stripped away his interpretations and identified only what was objectively true. One client out of 27 had cancelled their contract. This represented 18% of current revenue. No other clients had indicated dissatisfaction. For recognize alternate interpretations, Michael generated several different ways to view this event. This is an opportunity to diversify our client base. This creates space to pursue larger clients we didn't have capacity for. This is valuable feedback that can strengthen our business model. This is a test of our resilience that will make us stronger. For Assess the Evidence, Michael honestly evaluated which interpretations were best supported by the complete evidence. He realized that while the loss created genuine financial pressure, there was zero evidence that his business model was fundamentally flawed, or that he couldn't replace the revenue. In fact, he had successfully navigated similar challenges twice before. For meaning choice, Michael consciously selected an interpretation that acknowledged the challenge while creating possibilities. This setback is temporarily painful but ultimately beneficial, as it's forcing us to strengthen areas of our business that need improvement and diversify our client base. For embody, the new meaning, Michael visualized successfully overcoming this challenge, adjusted his physical posture to reflect confidence rather than defeat, and immediately outlined 3 strategic actions to take based on his new interpretation. The result? Within 2 weeks, Michael had not only secured a new client that replaced 70% of the lost revenue, but he had also identified and corrected a weakness in his client acquisition process that ultimately made his business much stronger. Was the cancelled contract still challenging? Of course, but by reconstructing how he interpreted the event, Michael transformed his emotional response, his strategic thinking, and ultimately the outcome itself. This is the power of the reality reconstruction system. It doesn't deny that difficulties exist, but it recognizes that how you interpret those difficulties determines whether they become roadblocks or stepping stones. The neuroscience behind this approach is fascinating. Studies using functional MRI technology show that when people reappraise negative events, assign new meanings to them, they activate the prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate the amygdala, the brain's alarm system. This literally changes how your brain processes the experience, reducing stress hormones and activating centers for creativity and problem solving. Now, I want to address some common objections to this approach. Some people say, but isn't this just putting a positive spin on negative events? Isn't it being unrealistic? Here's what I tell them. Reality reconstruction isn't about pretending problems don't exist or that everything is wonderful when it isn't. It's about recognizing that multiple interpretations of any event are possible, and some are both more accurate when considering all the evidence and more useful than others. It's not about being unrealistically positive, it's about being intelligently positive. Others ask, what about truly terrible events? Surely some things are just objectively bad. This is a profound question that deserves a thoughtful answer. Yes, life contains genuine tragedies and injustices. The reality reconstruction system doesn't ask you to pretend otherwise. What it offers is a way to find meaning that allows you to move forward rather than remain trapped in suffering. Viktor Frankl, the renowned psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Even in the most horrific circumstances imaginable, Frankl observed that those who found meaning in their suffering were most likely to survive. This doesn't minimize the suffering, it transforms it. In your own life, you will face challenges of varying degrees. The reality reconstruction system gives you a powerful tool to interpret these events in ways that create possibility rather than perpetuate pain. Let me share 3 practical applications of this system that you can implement immediately. First, the morning meaning audit. Each morning, identify one challenging situation you're currently facing. Run it through the frame system, writing down your responses to each step. This 5-minute practice transforms how you approach your biggest challenge of the day. Second, the trigger transformation. Identify 3 common situations that reliably trigger negative thinking for you. Create pre-planned alternative interpretations for each trigger and rehearse them daily. When the trigger occurs, you'll have a new interpretation ready to deploy. Third, the evening reconstruction. Each evening, identify one difficult event from your day. Rather than ruminating on it, consciously reconstruct how you interpret it using the frame system. This prevents negative experiences from cementing in your memory and affecting your sleep. These simple practices, done consistently, will dramatically change your experience of life, not by changing what happens to you, but by transforming how you interpret what happens. Now, I want to share something critically important. The reality reconstruction system becomes most powerful when applied proactively, not just reactively. Most people only question their interpretations when they're suffering. But what if you develop the habit of consciously choosing empowering interpretations as your default approach to life? This is what I call constructive reality creation, the practice of intentionally interpreting events in ways that create possibility while still respecting the actual facts. Over time, this practice becomes automatic. Your brain literally rewires itself to automatically generate more empowering interpretations of events. What once required conscious effort becomes your default way of processing reality. So as we conclude this chapter, I want to leave you with a profound truth. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you always have a choice in how you interpret what happens. And that choice makes all the difference. In the next chapter, we'll explore the mindset integration blueprint. How to weave your transformed mindset into every area of your life, ensuring that your new way of thinking becomes your consistent reality rather than just an occasional state. But before we move on, I invite you to choose one challenging situation in your life right now and apply the frame system to it. Don't just read about reality reconstruction, experience its power for yourself. Because when you change how you interpret reality, you change your reality itself. Chapter 4. The Mindset Integration. Blueprint. Living your new reality every day. Imagine spending years building a magnificent house, selecting premium materials, crafting perfect joints, creating beautiful spaces, only to have it wash away in the first storm because you built it on sand instead of solid rock. This is exactly what happens to most people's attempts at mindset transformation. They do the work of changing their thinking, they experience breakthroughs, they feel the excitement of new possibilities. And then, at the first strong challenge, they watch their new mindset wash away, revealing the old foundation underneath. Why does this happen? Because they never properly integrated their new mindset into the fabric of their daily lives. Integration is the difference between temporary change and lasting transformation. It's the difference between occasional new thoughts and a fundamentally new way of being. Without integration, even the most powerful mindset techniques become nothing more than intellectual exercises. Interesting, perhaps even temporarily helpful, but ultimately not life-changing. This is why the mindset integration blueprint is so essential. It's the process of embedding your new mindset so deeply into your life that it becomes your default operating system rather than something you have to consciously remember to apply. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a talented physician who had made remarkable progress in overcoming her perfectionism and imposter syndrome. Through our work together, she had developed a much healthier relationship with achievement and self-worth. While on vacation, Jennifer felt amazingly free from her old thought patterns. But when she returned to the high-pressure environment of her hospital, she found herself slipping right back into perfectionism, self-criticism, and anxiety. What happened? Jennifer had changed her thinking, but hadn't changed her environment or her routines. She hadn't integrated her new mindset into the actual contexts where she needed it most. This is when we implemented the mindset integration blueprint, using what I call the weave system. W stands for wiring the environment. Restructuring your physical surroundings to reinforce your new mindset rather than trigger old patterns. E stands for establishing triggers. Creating consistent cues that activate your new mindset automatically throughout your day. A stands for automating practices. Transforming mindset techniques from conscious efforts into habitual routines. V stands for verbalizing commitments, using language patterns that reinforce your new identity and mindset. E stands for engaging accountability, creating social structures that support and strengthen your commitment to your new way of thinking. Here's how Jennifer applied the weave system to her life. For wiring the environment, Jennifer completely redesigned her workspace. She removed the perfectionistic quotes she had once found motivating. She created a celebration wall documenting successes and lessons learned. She even rearranged her furniture to create a more open, creative atmosphere rather than the rigid, pressured environment she had before. For establishing triggers, Jennifer identified 5 daily experiences that reliably occurred in her workday: entering the hospital, washing her hands, charting notes, eating lunch, and driving home. She assigned a specific mindset reset practice to each trigger so that these ordinary moments became automatic reminders to realign with her new thinking patterns. For automating practices, Jennifer transformed her mindset exercises from conscious efforts into habitual routines by linking them to existing habits. Her morning coffee became paired with reviewing her new beliefs about success and worth. Her evening shower became a time to mentally process the day through her new interpretive framework. For verbalizing commitments, Jennifer rewrote the language she used about herself and her work. Instead of saying, "I have to be perfect," she trained herself to say, "I choose to do excellent work while embracing my humanity." She placed these new verbal commitments on cards throughout her environment and practiced using them in conversations with trusted colleagues. For engaging accountability, Jennifer created a mindset partnership with a fellow physician who was also working on transforming limiting thought patterns. They checked in briefly each day and had a deeper weekly conversation about their progress and challenges. The result? Within 2 months, Jennifer's new mindset had become her default operating system, even under the intense pressure of her hospital environment. Her colleagues commented on the noticeable change in her presence and leadership. And most importantly, she maintained her high standards of medical excellence while liberating herself from the suffering of perfectionism. This transformation wasn't because Jennifer discovered some new mindset technique. It was because she systematically integrated the techniques she already knew into every aspect of her life. The neuroscience behind this approach is compelling. When you create environmental cues that repeatedly trigger specific neural networks, you establish what neuroscientists call context-dependent memory. Your brain begins to automatically activate certain thinking patterns in specific environments. By consciously designing your environments and routines, you can literally automate positive mindset activation rather than leaving it to chance or requiring constant conscious effort. Now, let me address a common obstacle to mindset integration, what I call context collapse. This occurs when your mindset improvements in one area of life fail to transfer to other areas. For example, you might develop a growth mindset in your professional life but maintain a fixed mindset in your personal relationships. Or you might practice self-compassion in your private life but revert to harsh self-criticism in social situations. The solution to context collapse is what I call cross-domain integration, the deliberate practice of applying your mindset frameworks across different life domains. Try this powerful exercise. Identify your 3 most important mindset shifts, the new beliefs or interpretive frameworks that have made the biggest difference in one area of your life. Now, systematically apply these same shifts to 3 other life domains. For example, if you've learned to embrace failure as feedback in your career, how might the same mindset apply to your health goals, your relationships, your creative pursuits? By consciously transferring mindset frameworks across domains, you create a unified way of thinking that operates consistently throughout your entire life, rather than compartmentalized mindsets that only activate in specific contexts. Another powerful integration practice is what I call identity-based installation. Most people try to change their thinking through willpower and conscious effort, but your most powerful thoughts, the ones that shape your automatic reactions, emerge from your sense of identity, who you believe yourself to be. When you shift from, "I'm trying to think positively," to, "I am a person who naturally sees opportunities in challenges," you transform the entire foundation of your thinking. Try this identity installation exercise. Complete the sentence, "I am someone who," with 5 statements that reflect your desired mindset. For example, I am someone who sees challenges as opportunities for growth. I am someone who treats myself with the same compassion I offer others. I am someone who focuses on what I can control rather than what I can't. I am someone who values progress over perfection. I am someone who finds meaning even in difficult circumstances. Repeat these identity statements daily, ideally while looking in a mirror. This might feel uncomfortable at first, but neuroscience research on self-directed neuroplasticity shows that repeatedly pairing I am statements with your physical image creates powerful new neural networks that gradually become your default self-concept. Now, let's address the most common barrier to mindset integration, the social environment. Your mindset doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's constantly being influenced by the people around you, their beliefs, their language patterns, their reactions to events. All of these shape your own mental frameworks, often without your awareness. This is why social integration is so crucial. You must deliberately create social environments that reinforce rather than undermine your new mindset. This doesn't mean surrounding yourself only with positive people, though that can help. It means being strategic about who you allow to influence your thinking and how you respond to social influences that don't serve you. Here are 3 powerful social integration strategies. First, the Mindset Council. Identify 3 to 5 people who embody the mindset you're developing. They might be friends, colleagues, authors, podcast hosts, or historical figures. Regularly expose yourself to their thinking through conversation, reading, or listening. When facing a challenge, ask yourself, how would someone on my Mindset Council approach this situation? Second, influence boundaries. Identify relationships or social environments that consistently trigger old, limiting thought patterns. Create conscious boundaries around these influences. This might mean limiting time with certain people, preparing mentally before engaging with them, or having direct conversations about how you're changing your thinking and need their support. Third, teaching transmission. One of the most powerful ways to integrate a mindset is to teach it to others. When you articulate your new thinking frameworks to someone else, you strengthen the neural networks in your own brain. Find opportunities to share what you're learning, not in a preachy way, but as an authentic sharing of your journey. As we begin to close this chapter, I want to share a profound truth about mindset integration. It's not just about maintaining your progress, it's about creating a perpetual upward spiral. When you properly integrate new mindset patterns, they don't just remain stable, they continue to evolve and strengthen. Each positive interpretation makes the next one easier. Each empowering belief creates evidence that reinforces itself. This is what psychologists call positive recursion, the process by which positive changes create conditions that enable further positive changes. By following the mindset integration blueprint, you're not just preventing backsliding, you're creating the conditions for continuous growth and expansion of your mental capabilities. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if your most empowering thoughts weren't occasional visitors, but permanent residents in your mind? What would change if your most limiting beliefs weren't just temporarily silenced, but permanently transformed? These questions aren't theoretical. The Mindset Mastery Method, the Reality Reconstruction System, and now the Mindset Integration Blueprint give you the exact tools to make this transformation your reality. In our final chapter, we'll explore the Transcendent Purpose Framework, how to connect your mindset mastery to a larger mission that gives meaning to your journey and creates impact beyond yourself. But before we move on, I encourage you to implement at least one element of the Weave system today. Don't wait for the perfect time to integrate your new mindset. That time will never come. Instead, choose one small integration practice and begin immediately. Because in the end, what matters isn't what you know about mindset transformation, it's what you live. Your new mindset is too important to remain a concept. It's time to weave it into the very fabric of your daily existence. Chapter 5. The Transcendent Purpose Framework. Why your mindset matters to the world. Have you ever achieved something you worked toward for years, only to feel a strange emptiness once you reached it? Have you ever wondered why some people with extraordinary mindsets still feel a sense of restlessness, as if something essential is missing from their lives? I've worked with thousands of successful individuals who mastered their mindsets, yet still felt a persistent void, a quiet but unshakable sense that something more significant was calling them. This is what I call the achievement paradox, the discovery that even the most empowering mindset, when focused solely on personal success, eventually reaches a ceiling of fulfillment. The truth is that human beings are wired for something greater than individual achievement. We are designed to contribute to something that transcends our personal existence. This isn't philosophy or religion, it's neuroscience. Studies at Harvard's Center for Neuroeconomics show that the brain's reward centers light up more intensely when we take actions that benefit others than when we take actions that benefit only ourselves. This is why the final element of complete mindset mastery is what I call the transcendent purpose framework, connecting your empowered mindset to something larger than yourself. Let me tell you about Richard, a brilliant technology executive who had applied every principle of mindset mastery we've discussed. He had transformed his negative thinking, reconstructed how he interpreted challenges, and integrated his new mindset into every area of his life. By all conventional measures, Richard had made it. He led a successful company, enjoyed financial freedom, maintained excellent health, and had wonderful relationships. Yet when we first spoke, he confided something surprising. I've achieved everything I set out to achieve, but something's missing. I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Is this all there is? Richard had reached the ceiling of purely personal achievement. His mindset was empowered, but not transcendent. That's when we implemented what I call the impact framework. I stands for inspiration source. Identifying what moves you at the deepest level, the causes, values, or possibilities that awaken a sense of meaning beyond yourself. M stands for mission definition, crafting a clear statement of contribution that connects your unique gifts to needs in the world around you. P stands for purpose alignment, ensuring your daily actions and goals serve your larger mission rather than just personal achievement. A stands for activation commitment, making specific pledges that translate your transcendent purpose from concept to reality. C stands for community building, creating or joining a collective of like-minded individuals who amplify your impact and sustain your commitment. T stands for transformation tracking, measuring and celebrating the difference your contribution makes in the world beyond yourself. Here's how Richard applied the impact framework to his life. For inspiration source, Richard explored what truly moved him at a deep level. Through guided reflection exercises, he recognized that his deepest inspiration came from the transformative power of education, specifically how technology could make quality learning accessible to those who couldn't otherwise afford it. For mission definition, Richard crafted a clear statement. I will leverage my technological expertise and business acumen to create and deploy learning platforms that make world-class education accessible to underserved communities, starting with rural areas in developing countries. For purpose alignment, Richard assessed his current professional responsibilities and personal goals through the lens of his mission. He restructured his business priorities to include developing low-cost educational technologies and reorganized his schedule to allocate 20% of his time to this purpose. For activation commitment, Richard made specific pledges to launch a pilot educational platform in 3 rural communities within 6 months, to mentor 5 promising young technologists from disadvantaged backgrounds each year, and to allocate 15% of his company's R&D budget to educational accessibility projects. For community building, Richard connected with other technology leaders, educators, and social entrepreneurs focused on educational access. He formed a monthly mastermind group dedicated to accelerating impact in this area and joined a global alliance of organizations working on similar missions. For transformation tracking, Richard established metrics to measure the actual difference his efforts were making: number of students gaining access to education, measurable learning outcomes, and economic opportunities created as a result of educational access. The result? Within 8 months, Richard reported a profound shift in his experience of life. The sense of emptiness had been replaced by genuine purpose. His already empowered mindset had become truly transcendent. And here's what's fascinating. Every other area of his life improved as well. His leadership became more inspiring to his team. His creativity in business increased. His relationships deepened as he shared his purpose with loved ones and invited them into his mission. As Richard told me, I didn't realize that what was missing wasn't about achieving more, it was about mattering more, not just succeeding, but serving. This transformation isn't unique to Richard. Research at the University of Pennsylvania found that people who connect their personal development to a transcendent purpose show greater resilience, deeper satisfaction, and more sustained motivation than those who focus solely on personal achievement. Why does this happen? Because a transcendent purpose activates what neuroscientists call the default mode network of the brain, the region associated with our sense of self in relation to others and the world. When this network is engaged in service of something meaningful beyond ourselves, it creates a profound sense of connection and purpose that purely personal achievement cannot. Now, I want to address some common misconceptions about transcendent purpose. Some people think this means abandoning their personal goals or career success to save the world. That's not it at all. Transcendent purpose isn't about sacrificing your well-being or achievements. It's about connecting them to something larger. The most powerful transcendent purposes often emerge at the intersection of what you're genuinely passionate about, what you're exceptionally good at, what serves a real need in the world. For Richard, this intersection was using his technological expertise, what he was good at, and his passion for innovation, what he loved, to expand educational access, a real need in the world. Others worry that finding a transcendent purpose requires some dramatic epiphany or radical life change. In reality, most transcendent purposes don't arrive in a blinding moment of clarity. They evolve through conscious exploration and experimentation. This is why the first step of the impact framework, inspiration source, is so crucial. It's about paying attention to what already moves you at a deep level and following that thread to a meaningful purpose. Let me share 3 powerful practices to help you discover your own transcendent purpose. First, the peak moments inventory. Identify 5 out of 10 experiences in your life when you felt most alive, most fulfilled, and most connected to something larger than yourself. Look for common patterns in these experiences. They often contain powerful clues about your transcendent purpose. Second, the contribution visualization. Close your eyes and imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back with deep satisfaction on the difference you made in the world. What specific contribution are you most proud of? Who benefited from your existence? What legacy did you leave? The images and feelings that arise often point toward your transcendent purpose. Third, the anger to action conversion. Identify 3 things about the world that genuinely anger or frustrate you, issues or conditions that feel deeply wrong or unjust. For each one, ask, how might my unique gifts and resources help address this issue? Our strongest negative emotions often indicate where our deepest purpose lies. These practices aren't just feel-good exercises, they're strategic tools for identifying where your empowered mindset can create maximum impact in the world. Once you've identified your transcendent purpose, the integration process begins. This isn't about adding another item to your to-do list, it's about infusing every aspect of your life with deeper meaning. Consider these integration questions. How can your current work serve your transcendent purpose, even in small ways? How might your relationships become vehicles for living your purpose? What daily habits or practices would align your routine life with your larger mission? Which of your unique strengths or resources could multiply your purposeful impact? The goal isn't to compartmentalize your purpose as a separate, charitable activity, but to weave it into the very fabric of your identity and daily existence. Now, let me share something remarkable about transcendent purpose that few people realize. It creates a powerful reciprocal effect on your mindset. While an empowered mindset enables you to pursue a transcendent purpose more effectively, that purpose then strengthens and deepens your mindset in return. This creates what I call a virtuous cycle of transcendence, each element continuously reinforcing and elevating the other. Here's how this works. When you connect your mindset practices to something beyond personal gain, you tap into motivation that's vastly more sustainable than self-improvement alone. The inevitable challenges of mindset work become meaningful struggles in service of a larger mission rather than just personal obstacles to overcome. This is why people with transcendent purposes show remarkable resilience in the face of setbacks. Their mindset work isn't just about feeling better, it's about being better equipped to serve their mission in the world. As we begin to close this chapter, I want to address one final question that often arises. What if I can't find a world-changing mission? What if my purpose seems small compared to others? Here's what I tell them. Transcendent doesn't mean enormous. It simply means extending beyond yourself. Your purpose might be raising children who will contribute positively to the world. It might be creating art that brings beauty to your community. It might be building a business that treats employees with dignity and provides genuine value to customers. The measure of a transcendent purpose isn't its scope, it's its authenticity and its focus beyond your own benefit alone. As the philosopher George Bernard Shaw wrote, "This is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. Being a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy." In our final chapter, we'll bring together everything you've learned: mindset mastery, reality reconstruction, mindset integration, and transcendent purpose into a cohesive, lifelong practice that will sustain your transformation for decades to come. But before we move on, I invite you to begin your exploration of transcendent purpose today. Set aside 30 minutes to complete the peak moments inventory we discussed. Look for the patterns. Listen for the call that's already present in your life. Because when your masterful mindset serves a purpose beyond yourself, you don't just transform your life, you begin to transform the world. Chapter 6. The Lifelong Transformation Path. Making this your new reality forever. There's a moment I've witnessed hundreds of times in my work with clients. It's the moment when someone realizes that the mindset transformation they've experienced isn't just a temporary improvement, it's the beginning of an entirely new way of being. Their eyes widen, their posture shifts, and often they say something like, "I never want to go back to how I used to think. How do I make sure this lasts forever?" This is the question we'll answer in this final chapter. Because the greatest tragedy isn't failing to transform your mindset, it's transforming it only to slide back into old patterns when life gets challenging. The truth is that mindset mastery isn't a destination you reach once, it's a path you walk for a lifetime. The good news, you now have every tool you need to walk this path successfully. But tools alone aren't enough. You need a system that ensures these tools remain active in your life for decades to come. This is what I call the lifelong transformation path, the framework that transforms momentary change into permanent evolution. Let me tell you about Marcus, a client who experienced profound mindset transformation, but then faced an unexpected challenge. After 6 months of remarkable progress, applying everything we've discussed in this audiobook, he was diagnosed with a serious health condition. The old Marcus would have spiraled into catastrophizing, victim thinking, and despair. But the new Marcus? He approached his diagnosis with a mastered mindset, viewing it as a challenge to navigate rather than a catastrophe to endure. For 3 weeks, his new mindset held strong. But then, as treatment began and physical discomfort set in, he noticed the old thought patterns creeping back. "I was disappointed in myself," Marcus told me. "I thought I had permanently changed these patterns, but here they were again. Was all my work for nothing?" This is a crucial moment in any transformation journey, the moment when you realize that mindset mastery requires ongoing commitment, not just initial breakthrough. That's when we implemented what I call the EVOLVE system. E stands for Evaluation rhythm. Establishing regular intervals to assess your mindset patterns and adjust your approach as needed. V stands for visualization anchoring, mentally rehearsing your new mindset responses to challenging situations before they occur. O stands for obstacle anticipation, proactively identifying and preparing for specific circumstances that might trigger old thinking patterns. L stands for learning orientation, viewing every setback not as failure, but as valuable feedback that refines your approach. V stands for variety incorporation, regularly introducing new mindset practices to prevent stagnation and keep your transformation fresh. E stands for environmental reinforcement, continuously redesigning your surroundings to support your ongoing evolution. Here's how Marcus applied the evolve system to his situation. For evaluation rhythm, Marcus established what he called his Mindset Friday, a 20-minute weekly self-assessment where he reviewed his thought patterns from the past week, celebrated his wins, and identified where old thinking tried to resurface. For visualization anchoring, Marcus created a daily 5-minute practice of mentally rehearsing how he would respond to his next treatment session, doctor's appointment, or moment of physical discomfort with his empowered mindset frameworks. For obstacle anticipation, Marcus identified specific triggers that tended to reactivate his old thinking: physical pain above a certain level, negative test results, and well-meaning but pessimistic comments from relatives. For each trigger, he developed a specific mindset response strategy. For learning orientation, Marcus maintained what he called a mindset laboratory journal, where he documented moments when he reverted to old thinking patterns, analyzed what triggered them, and designed experiments to handle similar situations more effectively in the future. For variety incorporation, Marcus committed to exploring one new mindset practice each month, whether from books, podcasts, or workshops, to prevent his transformation from becoming routine and to continually refresh his approach. For environmental reinforcement, Marcus did a monthly environment audit, assessing whether his physical spaces, social connections, media consumption, and daily routines were optimally supporting his mindset evolution. The result? Despite facing one of life's most difficult challenges, Marcus maintained and even deepened his mindset transformation. His medical team repeatedly commented on his extraordinary psychological resilience, which they believed contributed significantly to his physical recovery. As Marcus told me later, "What I realized is that mindset mastery isn't about reaching a final perfect state. It's about creating a system that allows for continuous evolution, especially when times get tough." This insight reveals a profound truth. The goal isn't to reach a point where challenges never affect your thinking. The goal is to develop a system that allows you to navigate those challenges with increasing skill and resilience over time. Consider the difference between a novice sailor and a master sailor. Both will encounter storms. But while the novice may panic and make costly mistakes, the master works skillfully with the elements, adjusting sails and steering through even the roughest waters. Your mindset is the same. You will face storms. The question isn't whether difficulties will arise, it's whether you have a system to navigate them skillfully when they do. The Evolve system provides exactly that, a framework for lifelong navigation of life's inevitable challenges. But there's another dimension to lifelong transformation that we must address: the critical role of identity in sustaining change. Research in neuropsychology shows that the most durable changes occur when new behaviors and thought patterns become incorporated into your sense of self, when they shift from things you do to who you are. This is why I recommend what I call identity anchoring, the practice of deliberately defining yourself through your new mindset capabilities. Instead of thinking, "I'm trying to be more positive," you establish, "I am someone who finds opportunities in challenges." Instead of, "I'm working on being less reactive," you embody, "I am someone who responds thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively." These aren't just semantic differences. When you define yourself through your new capabilities, you create what psychologists call cognitive consistency pressure, your brain's natural drive to maintain alignment between who you believe yourself to be and how you actually behave. Here's a powerful identity anchoring practice. create a written mindset declaration that begins with the words, "I am someone who," and lists 7 to 10 statements that capture the essence of your new mindset identity. Read this declaration aloud each morning as part of your routine. Over time, these aren't just statements you read, they become the truth of who you are. Now, let's address a critical question about lifelong transformation. What if I fall back into old patterns? Does that mean I've failed? This question reveals one of the most damaging myths about personal transformation, the myth of perfect linear progress. The truth is that transformation rarely follows a straight line upward. It typically follows what I call a spiral pattern, general upward movement punctuated by temporary dips when challenges arise. These dips aren't failures, they're opportunities for deeper integration and learning. Each time you catch yourself reverting to old patterns and redirect to your new mindset, you strengthen the neural pathways of transformation. This perspective transforms backsliding from a discouraging failure into a natural and valuable part of the evolutionary process. Let me share 3 practices that turn temporary setbacks into catalysts for deeper transformation. First, the recovery acceleration process. When you notice yourself reverting to old thinking patterns, immediately implement this 3-step process. Recognize without judgment. I notice I'm thinking in my old pattern. Redirect with compassion. I'm now choosing to shift to my new pattern. And reinforce with practice. Immediately apply your mindset tools to the situation. Second, the evolution journaling method. Keep a dedicated journal where you document instances when your new mindset successfully navigated challenges and when old patterns temporarily resurfaced. Regularly review this journal to see the overall trajectory of your progress, not just isolated setbacks. Third, the wisdom extraction practice. After navigating a period where old thinking patterns resurfaced, take time for reflective questioning. What triggered the old pattern? What helped me return to my new mindset? What have I learned that will strengthen my approach going forward? This transforms each setback into a source of evolving wisdom. These practices ensure that the occasional re-emergence of old patterns serves your ongoing evolution rather than derails it. Now, as we begin to conclude our journey together, I want to address what might be the most important element of lifelong transformation: the power of compounding growth. Just as compound interest transforms modest financial investments into substantial wealth over time, compounding mindset growth transforms modest daily practices into extraordinary mental capabilities over the years. Consider this: if you improve your mindset capabilities by just 1% each week, a very achievable goal, you'll be 67% better after 1 year and almost 200% better after 5 years. This is the miracle of compounding growth. Small, consistent improvements lead to massive transformation over time. But compounding only works with consistency. Just as irregular financial investments fail to generate significant compound interest, sporadic mindset practices fail to generate transformative growth. This brings us to the concept of the minimum effective dose, the smallest investment of time and energy that maintains forward momentum in your transformation. For most people, this minimum effective dose includes 5 minutes of morning mindset priming, 3 30-second mindset resets throughout the day, 10 minutes of evening reflection and integration, 1 hour per week of deeper mindset review and planning. That's a total investment of about 2.5 hours per week, just over 1% of your waking hours, to maintain and gradually enhance your mindset transformation. Is that a worthwhile investment? Consider the return: enhanced relationships, improved health, greater professional success, deeper fulfillment, and heightened resilience against life's inevitable challenges. In what other area could 1% of your time potentially transform the other 99%? As we reach the conclusion of our journey together, I want to share one final truth about mindset transformation, what I call the transformation paradox. The paradox is this: the more you progress on the path of mindset mastery, the more you realize how much further you can go. Far from being discouraging, this awareness becomes thrilling. The recognition that your potential for growth is truly limitless. This is the ultimate freedom, not arriving at some final perfect state, but embracing the endless adventure of your own evolution. So where do you go from here? First, implement the complete system we've explored. Use the mindset mastery method to transform your negative thought patterns. Apply the reality reconstruction system to change how you interpret life events. Implement the mindset integration blueprint to weave your new thinking into daily life. Connect to the transcendent purpose framework to extend your impact beyond yourself. Establish the evolve system to ensure lifelong transformation. Second, remember that this journey is both deeply personal and fundamentally connected. Your mindset doesn't just change your life, it changes how you show up for everyone around you. As you transform, you create ripple effects that extend far beyond what you can see. Finally, embrace the truth that mastering your mindset isn't just about achieving more or feeling better, though it certainly leads to both. It's about becoming who you truly are, beneath the layers of limiting thoughts and beliefs that have accumulated throughout your life. The great psychologist Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is the ultimate gift of mindset mastery, the freedom to shed the constraints of negative thinking and step into the fullness of your authentic potential. You began this audiobook at a crossroads. Now you stand at another, the choice between returning to familiar limitations or advancing into the extraordinary life that awaits when you master your mindset. The tools are in your hands, the path is before you. The only question that remains is, what will you do with the power you now possess? Remember, your mindset creates your reality. Choose wisely, choose consciously, and choose today. Your extraordinary life is waiting. Chapter 7. The final choice. Your decision starts now. We've reached the end of our journey together, but the beginning of yours. The Mindset Mastery Method, Reality Reconstruction System, Mindset Integration, Blueprint, Transcendent Purpose Framework, and Lifelong Transformation. Path are now yours. These aren't just concepts, they're tools, precise instruments designed to carve a new reality from the raw material of your life. But here's the truth that separates those who transform from those who merely dream. Knowledge, without action, is simply entertainment. You've invested your time reading this book. Now comes the moment that determines whether that investment pays dividends or disappears. Your decision. Not a lukewarm intention, not a casual, "I'll try this someday." A decision, firm, unwavering, and acted upon immediately. Right now, choose one technique from this book. Apply it before the sun sets today. Tomorrow, choose another. The day after, another. This is how transformation happens, not through quantum leaps, but through decisive, consistent steps that compound over time. Remember, your thoughts create your feelings drive your actions determine your results shape your life. Change begins with that first link in the chain. Master your mindset and everything else follows. The world doesn't need more people living lives of quiet desperation, trapped in mental prisons of their own making. The world needs you, fully alive, mentally free, and powerfully engaged. Your decision, your life, your time. Now, your extraordinary life isn't just waiting, it's calling, waiting, it's calling.